here, back at you with TV Fit Vlogs. Now today we're having a collab going on today, so it's going to be a little bit different because I'm here with another Chicago fitness influencer, and I'm so happy to have her. Her name is Katie Peterson.
Hi guys.
Yes, we're so happy to have her here.
Excited.
Yes, we're so excited. I want to do this for you guys today, just to connect with another influencer to kind of see, you know, their story and see how they teach and how they coach. And it's important as coaches. Yes, I'm a coach, guys, but like I'm also a student, and I want you guys to see that. It's super
Yes.
important. It's super important, and I'm just so blessed to be here with Katie today, and just to interview and just to ask some questions and see a little bit about her story and her journey and her philosophy and just how she does things, because I think we have similar kind of passion and similar stories that can kind of maybe help you guys with your training. So let's get into it, yeah?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Ready.
Okay. Yes, we're ready.
We've been talking for an hour. We just have cameras rolling.
We've just been into we're nerds, guys.
Yeah. This is our art, our science, our passion. Yeah.
We should have had the camera rolling like an hour ago. It's fine. But we're gonna give you guys some good content. All right, so Katie, my first question for you is just in regards to how your fitness journey started. Like, I'm thinking about just from a history perspective, like where did it start for you? How did you get into this? How did you get so excited about just your movement health and just get so passionate about it? Like, where did it begin for you? Take us back.
It's a great question because, we were just talking about it, and I was going to start in my 20s, but obviously things start way before then. So I think all of us at some point as kids were introduced to sports, and I was a pretty stellar athlete as a kid. And then as I, in retrospect, can say that, but at the moment you're just a kid, you're just playing. And I think as I got into junior high and high school, I got really self-conscious, and there was just a story, and I disempowered myself in a lot of ways where I wasn't on the traveling team, I didn't have the money to go do that club team, so I'm not going to be as good. And I just I got in my own head and started chasing myself out of being good and being at the top of different sports. So at the same time, I was always in my body. I was always very passionate about just movement and feeling into different movement patterns. And so I started learning how to lift. And I joined a weightlifting class my sophomore year of high school. And I think I started gaining weight around that time too. It was like my Dairy Queen job. I was eating blizzards and whatever. You're becoming a woman. You don't really know
hormones, guys. It starts to change what's a little bit harder.
Stuff just happens. You're reading 17 magazine, getting down on yourself. The long and short of it is it had nothing to do with losing weight. I just found it. And I had great coaches. And as I, started training X-Sport years later, half my guys were former football guys and didn't know how to move their bodies, but they lifted all through high school, where I'm like, wow, I had really good coaches. Like, who were these people? So I have to honor them. Coach O from Omaha, he's still around.
Shout out Coach O.
Yeah, Coach O, throw out. But I learned how to bench press well, and that was my structure. I didn't have wrong movement really embedding from an early age. So I loved lifting, and in all truth, and at Katie Peterson Lifting Up, like that's my Instagram, it lifted me up. That was my sanctuary in a lot of ways. So, again, years later, talking to like the power lifters of the world and doing cool ass workshops with them, they're saying that's their church. And I'm like, wow, I guess it was mine too. And really it's that body as your temple idea where it's like, yeah, it is. This is our consciousness. This is where we tap into who we are, tap into where we meet the ground, where we meet the world, where we meet people. And so that just started to unravel things, and I got into just following nutrition and understanding it more. And I got into yoga. So at like 15, I guess I was telling myself what my calling was going to be, which, as I was joking before we had the cameras rolling, I didn't realize it. I'm like, shit, she's going to make me spiral my whole life, and I'm going to have all these like new understandings about myself. So, some of it, I think, comes from your most wounded places when you have a gift to share with the world. I was self-conscious. I was feeling disempowered. I felt really effed up about my nutrition. I had bad digestion. I got ulcers. I was stressed. I had a lot of just kind of like that toxicity feeling at all times. Not that on the outside I looked unhealthy, but I was an emotional mess and not creating empowerment for myself. So it was, a lot of researching nutrition and doing a lot of different activity with my body. I started running, I started doing yoga, I was lifting. And that just kind of carried its way through to having passion for it. It wasn't going to be my work. I was obsessed with anatomy. I was obsessed with art. And I wasn't going to be allowed to go to art school. So I went pre-med. And that was like the choice. It was like, okay, going to college and you're not going to make money here, you're going to make money there. But in reality, those were not like my decisions. Yeah. So if we spin it all forward, I dropped out of being a bio-psych major and the whole pre-med program by junior year so I could go to Italy, which was all art history and things like that. So it was just kind of like I'm finishing up, I'm going to do marketing, and that's where, when I graduated, it was, I'm sure everybody has that panic moment of like, what am I doing with my life?
Definitely.
Like, I should censor. So if there's babies around, sorry.
That's fine.
So, yeah, good, okay. So, yeah, there was that like moment of just like, I'm going to get the marketing job, I'm going to do the thing, I'm going to get into the, hit the grind and move up some whatever ladder. But I had a friend, luckily, who I had like forced into running with me and had like, shined some fitness down on him the last couple of years. That was like, this gym's hiring. Like this, go over there. Like just go over there. Maybe you're a salesperson. Who knows, And that's where I became a trainer. So it was at an export off North Avenue. I'm sure everybody knows it. And it's just that entry level, like nothing. Like they do not necessarily think they're going to keep their trainers.
But that's where you were able to kind of finally find that kind of art. She had that love for anatomy, but she also had that love for art. But I feel like you found that as soon as you became a trainer, like not knowing like that was something that was going to appear together. But I think that's just so beautiful that kind of connected for you. They weren't separate passions, almost,
right?
But they connected.
And even further, with the figure competing, as we're talking about, there is art in it, and there's art in everything we do. I mean, you talk to a chef; they're an artist. We're playing with the science of our human bodies, like that is art. So. Anyway, yeah, you're right. It's like that connectivity is so interesting to hear spit back out to me and for me to say it for the first time. And at the same time, marketing was a background for me even since high school. And as you know, as an entrepreneur, that's not where I started. I was working for a corporate gym, but eventually those things paired out into different projects I was doing with my own fitness career and my fitness business. I had to have some sort of a marketing background. I had to have some sort of a communications and people skill background. So there was all of that kind of just poured into, this is what's always been forming, and then I can take it into where my next passion's growing with it. So that's kind of, I guess, what happened over the years.
Almost, so you kind of have to have those skills, even if you're not an entrepreneur.
Right.
But
to be branded, yeah. And I don't think, we started in fitness, or when I started in fitness, it was, 06, 05, something right around there. And that was a time where, I was also new to it, so maybe this wasn't the case for every other trainer in the world, but I was going in to follow a program. And so I was going to follow the best coaches, I was going to try to emulate what they did, but I wasn't going in to build a personal brand. And I think that's part of the social media evolution and everyone becoming Insta famous and, all these things, but it's like, that's cool. We can form our own brand. And that wasn't the mindset.
Like even this idea of influencer didn't even exist back in.
It was like, who can I be influenced by? And I love that you opened with that because I am a teacher. But a natural teacher is always a natural student. And if they're not the best teacher anymore. Because you're continuing to learn, you're continuing to embrace other people's thoughts and ideas, and we're all evolving together when we do that. And so it's all about collaboration. It's all about, reading Dan John's books and using every one of his workouts because they work. And then intuitively going on my own path to see, how can I make it work better for me? Now how can I make it work better for this person? So
I created my own system. I wasn't even trying to do that.
Exactly.
Because she's an artist at the end of the day.
That's good weave.
Yes,
good weave
back.
Yes.
Weaving.
So that, I think that was my entry was my own disempowerment, now that I'm saying it. And of course, right now I'm running. It is, because, back in first grade, I was winning every single race, and the school started giving out participation ribbons. And I remember my dad marching into the principal's office saying, my daughter earned first place in all those events. These kids aren't going to learn perseverance. And it was like, first of all, military man, like Green Beret, Purple Heart, Bronze Star. Now you know where some of this like discipline probably is like in my DNA coding. But at the same time, that wasn't the girl I showed up being in, high school in my softball sports or track or whatever like that.
So let's talk about, let's kind of take it back and go back to that disempowerment, because I just think that's such an interesting point, especially for women out here, and with social media influence. Basically telling women that you have to, with fitness is great. I'm loving that social media is promoting, like people are enjoying fitness more. Like fitness is more like a popular thing because of social media. Like I think that's awesome. But at the same time, like I think that it can be disempowering for women that maybe aren't at where they want to be at with their fitness. And they're seeing all these, these perfect,
right.
aesthetically pleasing, like awesome photos, online, and that's kind of what they're seeing with the coaches and the influencers, and that's awesome. Like,
it's interesting to go there because I think you're 100% right, and I think one problem is just like it just sparked up. So I apologize for interrupting you, but it was that like we're often chasing what something looks like when really we need to be connecting with what we want to feel like. What do I desire to feel like? Strong, resilient, like I know how to move, like if I fell I would catch myself the right way, and for me, like when I'm doing a max pull-up, like if I was falling off a mountain I wouldn't die. Sometimes the visuals get more intense, but it's like we need to start connecting to how do I want to feel, not where do I want the outcome to be, because we're even not in control of that. We're in control of the daily,
let's talk about that. This idea of feel and performance, even like how do I want to perform better? Like every day I want to be my best self, as my best human self, like my most optimal human self. And that's not just aesthetics, people. That's not just body. That's not just look. However, let's talk about this idea of let's talk about this idea of and this is just kind of a point that I think about a lot, like how aesthetics maybe connects with athleticism, right? So when you do work on feel, and when you do work on just the healthy things, the skills, the max pull-up is like if I were on a mountain, I wouldn't fall. Like thinking like connecting it that way as if they were like a life or death type things. Like those life skills, how working on those maybe leads you to the point of getting, you're pretty aesthetic,
100%.
Right? So tell the people like, how even though you don't train for the look,
which isn't totally true. There's always part of that, right?
Yeah.
Because what's confident in me is when I'm natural in my own skin. And when I don't need extra weight, why am I carrying it around? Or when I want to be stronger, why am I not? And
it's the why though.
It's why. And so it's a certain amount of discipline and a certain amount of flow.
Yeah.
And it's meeting that balance at all times. I think it's really important, where we both come from competitive backgrounds, not only in sports, but we're both figure competitors.
And we got to talk about, maybe they may not know what figure is.
So it's like bodybuilding, so that's good. So it's the women's sport to bodybuilding that was a little bit more feminine and less spirits.
Basically to put it,
that's just like the synopsis. So at the end of the day, it's to get your body into its best, like peak physical condition, allegedly. And then there's also the like, I am completely low body fat, not my healthiest on stage, but I'm shredded and I got here, so there's some balance to that too. And I will say, every show I did, and I competed at the national level for 7 years, and probably like 4 or 5 shows a summer. It was more and more balanced. So while it was almost too extreme in the beginning, and not almost, way too extreme in the beginning, I learned something every year. I learned something about myself every season and every show, and there was something of dialing into how do I have discipline meet flow? How do I get this to feel more freeing? And not necessarily, where I'm beating myself up all the time. And once again, that was speaking into the disempowerment versus empowerment, where it's like even something competitive where I was cleaning up stages at a certain point was somehow disempowering because I had too many rules on myself. So it was all for aesthetic in a lot of ways, but deep down, that's not all I wanted. So there was something process. That,
like, wait a minute, what am I really
always
training
a lesson. For? Yeah. And at the end of my whole competition season is actually what brought me back to kettlebells. It was 2012, 11. Whatever it was, I was like, there's nowhere to go but down. I'd come from like 2 cards away from my pro card, and I dumped out of the top 10 the next year, and I just saw these huge girls.
I want to cry. Like when she told me that, I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, girl.
It's like, I mean, when you're close, you're close, and it's not easy because you're also playing politics and I didn't play politics. So it was pretty cool that I got up there because people didn't know me. I wasn't a sponsored girl. I wasn't, you know, there's an alarm that we got to take care of. So long and short of that is it was just like, I made a promise to myself that the moment it's not fun, I'm not doing it anymore. In retrospect, there was a lot of not fun moments, but I had enough of a thread to stay in it, which tells me there was still a lesson in it for me. And at the end of that season, I was like, I'm good. My body looks great. I feel good. I'm really balanced. That wasn't hard. I got here on time. Yeah. They just don't like the way I look. And I'm like, I'm done chasing that laser pointer in a way because I like the way I look. So it gave me this source of like, I'm fine to leave this now. And now all I want to do is get really effing strong. And that's actually what brought me back to kettlebells, something I'd been introduced to originally when I became a trainer in 2006. So that's when I started to source back into what really would be, like we said, very much more of an athletic flowing movement where you have to trust that you are athletic, that you do have skill, where a lot of times with bodybuilding, we are athletes, but you can isolate, you can slow down.
You can sit in a machine.
Yeah.
You know, do some of those closed chain movements, right?
Which both are important to speak back to one another, I think. Like my bodybuilding lifts, all my grinds, my powerlifting never leaves my, you know, when I was a bodybuilder and a kettlebeller and kind of a mixture of always both, because that's my brand. I suppose. We're talking about brand. But like I deadlift every week, like of course. Yeah. But no matter what, I'm smarter in my body because I always had those isolating movements and then it always could transfer back and forth. But you have to have a little bit of that belief that you can be an athlete to play with kettlebells. Because as we were saying, the kettlebell will tell you you did it wrong. You don't have to tell yourself. The kettlebell will tell you. So there's that. Like if I was on the field, a bad play would tell me I'm not moving well. So it's kind of that a little bit more throwing the athlete into the game. I guess that's a better way of saying it. So yeah, I think that
a lot of nuggets, you guys. I hope you guys are taking some writing them down. I hope you guys have notes and you have a pen because it's good stuff that we're learning. Definitely. Well, Katie, so let's kind of segue into just maybe your training philosophy. So because of this process that you went through with maybe being disempowered, you know, because of just, especially as a woman, just like, you know, social norms with you know, body and all that, and just feeling less than, you know, growing up, especially in high school. Katie's obviously not at that point anymore, and so I'm curious about kind of that process of how your training philosophy, your personal training philosophy has changed and has updated over the years, having been through this point, this low point, maybe in high school, maybe a little bit in college or whatever, and then learning, you know, through figure, and then learning through kettlebell, and just to where you're
at now. And I think
now.
it's like those lows kind of do ebb and flow, and I think part of the empowerment is embracing that. Like, I'm going to have a bad day, and I'm going to feel like a terrible athlete. And that doesn't mean I take myself out, you know? And so there's that, like, the low point, it didn't feel low at the time, but it was. And then there's other low points that feel lower, and, you know, you don't know that you can ride the wave as much. So I think it's embracing the messy, number one. And just knowing, like, everybody's going to have a shit day. And at the same time, everybody has to learn from somewhere. So it's like treating yourself with this patience is part of what's really embedded as my philosophy. And I don't think I started with patience, ever. And it's the perfectionist in me that disempowered me. And I can say it was everything else that disempowered me, but nobody can do that except me. And it was that when we are chasing perfectionism, we'll hold ourselves back from fear of not achieving it. And we're not gonna get there. And so it's kind of like honoring the, like, that's not gonna happen. Now let's just play. So I think so much of my training philosophy is dived, whatever the word is, become playing. And so, but in that sense, I wouldn't feel the confidence in my play if I never had the structure. And so like doing, and I guess that's maybe not true. I wouldn't be confident in the way that I want to play, which is kind of intense. So like doing different like crazy balancing tricks with kettlebells or juggling with them or whatever. So those things needed some you know, body awareness, but anybody can play. So yeah, not to say you need like 10 years of like diligent structure to be able to play. So yeah, back that one up.
But definitely,
but
I think
there's
to appreciate play.
Right.
Because I'm at the same point with you with...
to appreciate, like, how can I get more creative and be crazier, but in good integrity?
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to go do, like, dancer's pose at the edge of a mountain to feel like an athlete. That sounds terrifying.
For the picture, you know, for the gram.
Like,
you don't gotta do that, guys.
Slip. But if I'm on ground, which is like what I'm sure we'll talk about in a few minutes, because we've both been obsessed with feet consciousness, and it's a huge thing. But that wouldn't be my thing I'm nerding out about 10 years ago. I needed to learn how to pick up a barbell first. And so it's kind of that, you know, what my training philosophy, I guess, to bring it back home, has embodied is that I've been a researcher, I've been a student, I've trained with some of the best in the world, and I sought them out, and I always honor what they taught me. And those things don't go away because I change and find other gurus or teachers to, and by the way, I think the age of the guru is dead. I think we are all teachers and can all expand from one another. Definitely. But there were times where I was like, yes, you have all the answers. But those people had great answers. And so those things have embedded in me, and then I've slowly trusted that my intuition is usually pretty spot on. So if I'm taking it somewhere else, we can integrate that. And then when that can be packaged up for a brand new person, they don't need to do the 10 years of research training. They can learn the structure and pay attention to the new nerdy foot consciousness thing that I'm playing with, and change their bodies and start to learn how to be more resilient in their tissues, more confident in their tissues. And those things are showing up in their body when they're training. So if that's the body that's showing up at work and in life and with their partners and friends, that's the practice. It's just the way a yoga instructor would say this. Yoga isn't just what's on the mat, it's what you leave with. And that's the way I think we should approach the body in all places. It's how do I treat my body in the training scenario, and how do I treat my body out here? And when we honor that system, we're showing up better in a lot of ways.
So would it be safe to say that maybe the core of your training philosophy nowadays is, you said patience, love that you said patience, and then also play. Would you say those are maybe the two cores?
Patience, play, and getting gritty with it.
Yes, because you still gotta work. You still gotta work.
And everybody in this room does pull-ups, and they start with band pull-ups, but they're not finishing with me until they're getting
you get a pull-up. Oh,
because if you're falling off a mountain, I want you to not die. So there's that whole like, we're going to be patient, but we're not soft.
Yeah, we're not soft.
What's the balance?
We're here to train.
We're a universe of masculine and feminine. We're a universe of discipline and flow. And we're a universe of soft and strong. And both. And we need both. That's what resilience is. I think of like the palm tree, right? That just like weathers the storm. Those are the trees and the earthquakes and the hurricanes and they don't break. But they bend to the ground.
That's a cool analogy.
And that is resilience. And that is something that your nervous system can be trained into. And I think that's the cool other nerdy thing that I've been playing with is how do we calm our nervous system down as fast as humanly possible? When I'm doing a snatch test, how do I really remain? I'm breathing heavy, my heart's racing, but how do I not at all get into a panic mode where I am just cool with this feeling? And that's it. That's the gritty. Yeah. You gotta train on a lot of angles.
Definitely.
But
like not being necessarily on all the time. Like the nervous system has to be on and off. Like it has to be.
Thank you.
Like, you know, Katie's talking about these hills and these valleys. Like the body is, you know, ebbs and it flows. Like it's soft and it's hard. Like same with the nervous system.
Yeah, the lows you were saying with the low. Yeah, it's like the ebb flow of life. It's
and our body works the same way, and I think it just seems that you've kind of appreciate that over the years with your training, and that's kind of gotten to you to this point of like almost like it's play, but it's like it's practice play.
It's practice play.
It's practice play.
Everything's a practice. It's not, and when you approach that, there's not as much pressure. Because I have cried on this floor when I missed 300 pounds deadlifting out the ground. And it's just like, why? It's 300 pounds. It's so much. Why am I crying? But it's like you just get so pent up and you have so much emotion towards wanting to achieve the thing. And it's going back to what we're talking about, disempowering over the look. Like, this is the body I want to look like. But it's like, how do I just feel the way I want to feel and move in the body I have? Be grateful for all the things that I've got going on right here to get to there. Because you can't change something you hate. You've got to be present with what you're in if you want to work with what you're in. And so there's that same, I would crush workouts. It was, 100 rep sets on the leg press and having to superset to something else. Everything's a drop set. Do I still use drop sets? Absolutely. They're so fun. Yeah. But they're play, and not the whole workout has to be crushing my spirit. But at the same time, I want that feeling sometimes. And it takes a lot more to crush it now, too. So it's that balance. But now, at the end of a kettlebell class, I call it, depending who's in the room, it's a meditation. But I call it a nervous system chill out or whatever language seems a little more inviting. But we all sit, and for some people, they'll say, like, number one, thank you, but that was the hardest part of this hour. Because nobody's slowing them down. Nobody's going into the parasympathetic or, balancing that with their nervous system. And after you crush yourself, that's trauma in a small way. And your body can embed that in a way that's not exactly what you meant to happen. So if you can let it down, either by shaking after a big lift, we'll talk about in our KC system, which is all the kettlebell work, and I teach certifications with that, but it's fast and loose, it's shaking out. And you see people doing that, but it's kind of like weird, right? So when we're in a classroom and everybody's doing it, it's kind of like, just like breakout dance session, no big deal. We all look goofy, but that could happen in the middle of an hour if everyone got picked up on whatever complex we're doing and it's too harsh. I can read that room because I know these workouts. It's like, time to sit down. Let's just nervous system reset. Otherwise, the body's going to go into a different scenario where the ebb and flow are kind of just getting maxed out. We're not really riding the wave of the nervous system. And that's not good pressure. There's kind of that balance.
In other words, guys, like form breaks down when you don't have that balance.
Yeah.
And injury, you're more prone to injury, and you're just more prone to all the negative effects of training. Like, when you respect the body, when you respect rest periods, guys. When you respect breathing, and respect, this idea of parasympathetic that we're talking about is just like kind of coming down, like toning the body down instead of being so on and activated. The body has to be relaxed and flowing just as much in certain situations for you to kind of get back to on. Well, the only way you're going to be on. Yeah, definitely. And so it's a pretty cool concept. I think, all this is kind of tying together.
Yeah.
But let's, we mentioned kind of nerding out about feet. Let's touch on that real quick before the last question.
Sure, of course.
And so me and Katie have this weird obsession with just like foot health, guys.
Yeah.
I came in here today and I was just like, man, you have really healthy feet. Like they look very vascular. They just look strong. You have strong ankles and all this. So I'll let you kind of talk about what that means to you and how important foot health is to total body to health, and just like how you train in general, and just being able, like how your foot health is going to help you get that max deadlift, how your foot health is going to help you get a max bench, believe it or not.
Right.
So let's talk about that.
So, I mean, and in all transparency, this is how I usually come onto things. When I start getting obsessed with something, I play with it in my body, and then I start finding the research that matches it and supports what I'm saying. But to be, perfectly honest, I know it's right, because I'm feeling something. Good. And there's that other side of like when you're doing something disciplined for a while, your confidence in delivering the message is just there. And so what we're saying, a lot of all the mechanoreceptors of the leg are in the feet. So my first sensation of neural firing that the leg is going to get is how is it interacting with the ground. So, I got obsessed with the feet for certain reasons, but now just for the first time today, because she's opening up my world about a lot of things about myself, I started saying like, I had a lot of foot injuries actually. So it's interesting. I now see that I had lost a lot of sensation in the foot. So I'm actually pulling back strength that was missing when I was getting my max lifts. And max is forever. I'm probably never going to deadlift what I've gotten to before. And that's okay with me because my body's changed. But at the same time, I have a torn meniscus and I have, different breaks that have happened or different injuries that have happened. And I really draw it back to, what's my first interaction? And it's with the ground. And if we're on the hands, it's the hands. And the great part is they kind of are the same, motions and patterns. So if we're looking at laying a pattern down in the brain network, and I come up with this idea of it being the same, It's one lesson versus two. I just have to practice it now.
All right, Katie. So the last question I have for you today is just in regard to this idea and this concept that I'm obsessed with, and it's flow. This idea of fitness flow that is, you know, really important to me and in my training and to your training, clearly, because we're talking about play. So just what does the term fitness flow or fitness freedom, and you touched on it a little bit already, but like what does that mean to you? Like, is it important to you? And just, yeah, maybe touch on how you incorporate that into your lifestyle.
Totally impromptu answer that's perfect. Like, I love the questions she's asking me. Like, yeah, it's just so easy to talk to you about this, because we're just at the same place in our fitness evolution. And it really is, you know, I come from a very disciplined background, so I treat my movements with discipline. And I will always honor the Ed Cohn, you know, deadlifting program. I'll always bring that back when I need to up my deadlift. But every session has its own flow. And every session has different movements that I think in an integrated way are gonna warm me up towards something. So if I'm doing deadlifts, I'm not necessarily just deadlifting for my warm-ups, which I know a lot of coaches do, and that's great, but I want to turn on my nervous system. So I'm doing things with neuro grips, which I'll introduce in a few minutes. I'm doing, you know, twisting movements with bells, trying to find how loaded I can keep my back in all these strange positions. So I know when I'm under that big load, I can panic if I'm not trusting that my body has it. And that's not intentional, that's the involuntary response of big load. So there's a lot of that freedom, but then on another aspect of it, I used to be over-disciplined about like deadlifts are on Monday, that's just what happens, that's it. Bench press is on Tuesday, like I back everything Wednesday. So whatever that is has like died on my like life cycle, which is good. I always, you know, each week approach the week of like, yeah, I'm on a deadlift, which day does that fit? I will never let myself back out from like 10 pull-ups of like a standard. So like there's pull-ups always making their way into the week, but at the end of the day, I really connect into how does my body feel when I wake up. Do I feel heavy? If I feel heavy, I don't want to do grinds. If I feel heavy, I'm not deadlifting, squatting, benching, pressing. I'm going to float. I'm either going to run or I'm going to
like
fight.
How's your CNS feeling?
Swings, yeah. And that's another thing. How's my grip? If my grip doesn't feel strong, then my nervous system really is not going to be very strong. And that's something, you know, that there's science to it. I don't remember who said what, but it's true, because every time it's happened that, you know, I've tried to grip something and I can really see my grip is not weak. I'm either sick the next day or my body is beyond sore because I didn't really listen to my nervous system. And then the days that I'm feeling kind of airy or flaky even, or just not connected to the ground, it's all about footwork. It's all about grinds. It's all about drawing energy in and doing just heavy lifts. So I really flow with how does my body wake up today? And I make sure I've got some of those cornerstones, like I definitely want to bench this week, I'm going to do a deadlift this week. You know, there's different things like gotta snatch, whatever. But it'll work its way in the way that feels right in the moment.
You guys, Katie, so I love that. I love your answer. You're not, so basically with that, how I'm interpreting that information is that Katie's not a slave to programming. Yeah. She's not a slave to programming. I used to be same way, same structure, like even
kind of used to be. Like, I had an ex-boyfriend that really used to be like had the notebook.
Yeah, like just always and
like
even with bodybuilding,
so
like it gets so structured and then
too structured.
And like there's a time and place for it. And like I get it, like from I have like my strength and conditioning background. Like it's important. Like when you're training athletes and we're doing programming,
right?
Like yes, there needs to be a structure, especially for kids that don't know and they need that system. But when you get a little bit more advanced, guys, I think play is actually more advanced and getting more, getting deeper into those. Okay, I feel a little bit more airy today, so I have to ground myself with some core lifts. That I love that you said that. That makes a lot of sense. Like she listened to her body and she let her body dictate the workout. She was not a slave to programming. And
and then my body shows up the rest of the day grounded. That's awesome. When I meet friends or meet people, I'm grounded. I'm not off in the ether because I know they are. So there's just it's how I'm going to meet my day, not just my workout. And this body's got to show up all day long.
It definitely has to.
Yeah.
So that is so awesome, and so I hope you guys can appreciate like that is how Katie finds her flow. Like that's what flow means to her, because you guys know I'm all about just freedom and kind of what that means to you, and that playfulness aspect of it is just been so important to me, and especially that's why we connect so well, because we're so just like, how do I feel? Like, thinking about intuition with our workouts. And so, this has been awesome.
Cool, yeah. We've been talking for like 2 hours straight. I bet we could talk for 2 hours more, so.
I just want to talk all day.
Yeah.
We're learning so much from each other.
It's true. It's awesome. Just like osmosis. Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
It's affirmation that we're on the right track, so you guys are too.
Definitely. This is what it's about, guys. Not just, getting in a gym and just not being conscious. It's about connecting with people, learning, being a student for one, and then using what you learn and incorporating that into your fitness flow, into your program, whatever you're doing, like your flow, your freedom, and just being at your best, with that. And just like if you were a student in school, it's the same thing. So this has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Katie.
Yes.
I really appreciate it. So let the people know, let TB Fit know.
So we're Goose Island CrossFit.
Goose Island CrossFit.
I'm a few places. So this is over on North and Kingsbury. I do classes. Should I say my class times or something? Okay. So I do 9:30 on Monday, Wednesday, and noon on Friday. I have a 6 p.m. Tuesday night and an 8 a.m. on Saturday morning. So I'll share the link so you guys have all the information. So this is one of my places. And then I'm downtown at High Five Fitness off Chicago and Orleans. So, and there may be another space coming soon, but for right now, this is where I'm at. So,
look out for her new space. Look out for Katie Peterson in Chicago, right? We're just representing for Chicago.
Yep.
Representing for the strong women everywhere today. This has been such a good thing to do, I think, just to represent, you guys. So, thanks again. And
thank you.
We're going to get into a workout now. So, we'll show you guys what we got. All right? Let's get it.
Awesome.
Boom.